So coming back to our agenda, today is day 3. Okay. So far we have gone through 2 days of training. So first day we went through the overview of what the training program looks like, what all things will be covered in it, how it will be covered, timelines, tools that will be taught, what can you expect out of this training. Then we moved on to day 2. On day 2 we discussed about who is a business analyst, what will you be doing as a business analyst on a day-to-day basis, what will be your roles and responsibilities, and in order to fulfill those roles and responsibilities or your daily duties, what are the different skills that you require. Now, so far, any questions with respect to what we covered on day 1 and day 2 before we get started with day 3? Okay, so I assume that there are no questions and we can get started with day 3. So on today's day three's agenda will be how did this role of BA got created in IT industry? Okay, how, and right from the time when it was created to what it is now, how that role has evolved. Okay, so when we looked on to day 2, what a BA will do on a day-to-day basis, we basically looked at what BA will do currently. But today we are going to get into the background, see how they started their roles and responsibilities and how it has come up to now. Okay. Then what we are going to discuss is with respect to IT industry, what are the different roles and responsibilities that a business analyst will have to perform. So let's get started. I have an image that I would like to share. Yeah. Where is, yeah, this image. So I was getting this image. So what do you see when you, I mean, what do you understand when you see this image? Any thoughts, ideas? Okay, no worries. So this image actually tells us about how things have evolved over time. Okay, how technology specifically has evolved over time. So if you remember in the starting, we used to communicate with each other through letters, postcards. Okay, before we started using emails, and obviously it would take days, time, and there wasn't lot of technology, so there wasn't lot of intelligence as such. Okay, you would save on to your letters, postcards, isn't it, for referring back. Then what happened is slowly we moved on to a little bit of advancements in technology, wherein now we started using hard disks, pen drives, CDs initially, compact disks, then pen drives or flash drives, and then hard disks to store onto all this huge amount of data. Isn't it? Technology evolved. Initially, storage was expensive. Nowadays, storage has become relatively cheap. I won't say it is completely cheap, but relatively cheaper. Then we moved on to internet era. So internet era is where we guys started depending a lot upon how we communicate with each other through internet. Okay, so now instead of writing letters or postcards to someone, now we are utilizing emails. In order to get information, we are using our web browser to search for anything that we want. Okay, then what happened? Slowly we again evolved into the world of intelligence, artificial intelligence. Okay, so now even one of the examples is Chat GPT. So now instead of trying to find out anything over a web browser, what we are doing is we are taking help from Chat GPT. in a more friendly way, that we are giving the prompts to chat gpt, and that prompts are being answered by chat gpt by providing us the relevant content. Okay. And now the next advancement that is being discussed is how do we implement neural network into the world of computers. Now the reason why I'm sharing this image, or why I wanted to show this image, is to show how the technology has evolved over time. Okay. Now as technology evolves over time, as it becomes more and more sophisticated, okay, you want more and more people to use it. Okay, that's the whole intention of developing any technology. You want people to use it. What if you are creating storage devices but no one is there to use it? What will you do with those storage devices? It's a complete waste of money and experiment. If you create internet and no one is using internet, then what's the purpose of having internet? How are you going to generate revenue if no one is using internet? Similarly, AI, if people are not using a chat gpt or any other appropriate artificial intelligence tools, what's the purpose of creating it? So any technology that is developed, that is fine tuned over time, is with an intent of ensuring that it reaches to masses. Okay, so that more and more people can use it on a daily basis. Now, when you want people to use the technology, you want to create technology in a way that is user friendly or people friendly. People should not find it difficult to use. Okay. So, for example, hard disks. If you take hard disk or storage devices, for example, nowadays, any person with or without a computer background can easily use a hard disk. Okay. We all know that there will be USB ports. You just plug your hard disk in USB port and you are good to use it. Internet also is the same case. More and more people are using internet over time, isn't it? It's not that difficult. All you need is a web browser and an internet connection. If you have an active internet connection, open your browser and then start searching for anything or browsing anything. Same thing goes with artificial intelligence as well. And I'm sure in future, when quantum computing becomes a day-to-day affair with regular people as well, so it will be also the same case. It's more user friendly or people friendly. Now how do you create this technology as user friendly or people friendly? Okay, so one thing that we have seen is the technology has evolved over time. Okay, and it is continuing to evolve. Okay? That's the intention, that things will disrupt, even going forward as well. Things will continue to disrupt. Now disruption is part of technology. Now why we are doing all this? Make In order to make technology more and more people friendly. In order to make technology people friendly, or I can say technology is evolving. When why it is evolving? So that more people can use it. And because you want more people to use it, so you want your technology to be people friendly. So when things started, okay, your development team, or your technical team, I would say development team slash tech team, they would usually take care of getting requirements. There wasn't proper documentation as such, but what will happen is, in the starting, like in the 60s, when these technologies were being developed, business softwares were being developed. The tech team would usually go out, talk to the customer, what do you need, and then start building the software. Okay, so there wasn't enough focus on documentation. That's why when you move into IT companies, and when you especially work for software companies that have created software for some of the older clients, you would see one thing very common: lack of documentation. Why? Because the whole software creation started with technology people. Now they weren't focused about how do we write documents, how do we ensure that knowledge is getting transferred, but it was more about building a software. Okay, so when your focus is building a software, what happens is when these people who have built the software, when they retire, okay, or when they switch companies, that's when the challenge comes, because the other person doesn't have any way of knowing what was built. So the only way of knowing is go through the code and then start creating a document. So one was when development team and technical team was doing, how were they doing it? They would just interact with customer, what is needed, and start building the software. Okay. Now this approach had some of the advantages, like you had a lesser wait time, because obviously there wasn't enough time spent on documentation, in trying to understand what the customer really wants. The main focus was on get the information, start building software. Okay, so or naturally the wait time was lesser in this case. So this was one of the advantages, or you can call it as of uh, pros of this method. But what was the con? So there was lack of documentation, then which led to another problem. The problem was that was with respect to knowledge transfer. Okay, when people retire or when they switch companies, how will the other person know what the software does, how it works? Okay, so again, like I said, you have to go through code, start creating documents all over again. Now, and one more bigger disadvantage was it was the technology was not people friendly. Okay, so sometimes the information will be cluttered. Okay, if I tell you that we need to have a search option, or we need to build a software that facilitates search option, the idea was to give the search option. The idea was never to ensure that the search option is also people friendly, so that people can use it. In the earlier days, in the earlier 2000, when the internet era was booming, that time if you see, a lot of websites were created, but those websites were not user friendly. It was difficult to use those websites. You will have to go through, there were, in fact, all options were there in the website, but those options were pretty hard to locate. Okay, so now you see, over time, UI UX, I've just written that term, but we will go through it later. So now what happened over time? People realized that asking development team to directly interact with customers and start building software is leading to more issues as such than advantages. Okay. So then people thought that why don't we do one thing? Why don't we hire dedicated people who understand what is needed from business side, who doesn't want to directly focus on building software, whose first focus should be on what is needed from the business side. Okay, what the business wants, how do we increase the revenue for the business. Okay, we don't want to build softwares and increase our revenue. Unless our customers grow, we will never grow. Okay, if you think that by building software you can generate more revenue, yes you will, but to a certain extent. At one point, all customers will start leaving you, because they will know that your focus is only on getting money for you and not for the business. So nowadays a focus has shifted towards businesses as well. When during those days when internet was booming, so they thought, why don't we hire someone who has sound knowledge on business processes, okay, and who is thinking like a customer. Okay, see, customer is thinking about how do we generate our revenue, how do we increase our businesses. So why don't we have someone, a person who has sound knowledge of business processes and also who is thinking like a customer. But in addition to this, we need one more skill set in that person. And that skill set is the person should be able to use the business knowledge and convert that to a requirement to create to be for our convert that to a requirement for our tech team to create a software. Okay, and this person was then called as business analyst. Okay, now I'll give you an example how this looks like. Okay, how your business knowledge and then converting into a requirement actually works. A very simple example of how things are done. So let's say uh, you tell your parents, okay, suppose you are still a kid, or if you have kids, your kids tell you that they want clothes. Okay, simple example so that we all can relate. So kids tell you that they want clothes. Okay, now what happens is this is kind of an ambiguous statement. Okay, what do I mean by ambiguous is it is open for multiple interpretations. Someone can think that clothes mean that they want jeans, t-shirt. Okay, it can also mean regular shirt, or maybe Indian attire, isn't it? So it is open for multiple interpretations, but you once you get the cloth, then only you will know whether your kid is liking it or not. Okay. So what happens is then we start asking some relevant questions to kid. Okay. So the first question could be, what do you want? Okay. Are you looking for bottom wear or top wear? Okay. Or both? Now, once you get answer to the question, let's say the kid say, I want both bottom and top wear. Then you start probing further that, okay, in bottom wear, what is it that you are specifically looking for? Okay, again, in bottom wear, what is it that you are specifically looking for? Now, you may get a response that I want jeans. Okay, then the next question could be that, okay, what type of jeans are you looking for? We have different fabric quality, isn't it? A different design. So now you may get your kid may not understand it, but they may have a fair bit of idea what fabric quality and design they are looking for. Now, once you agree on fabric quality and design, you will know certain things like what size will fit your kid, and then you will decide on the budget that you need to go for. Then you move on to the next part, that is, what is the top wear that you want? Okay. Now you may get a response like, okay, in top wear, get me a shirt. Then again, the same question applies here as well. Okay, that what fabric quality, design, size, budget. So you again agree on to these aspects as well. Now once you agree on to these aspects, what does your final outcome looks like? Okay, so basically you will have a jeans of size, let's say 30. Okay, and let's say you want multiple color jeans. Okay, we mentioned design, so multiple color jeans. And your second requirement will be a shirt of medium size And since we mentioned like quality, fabric quality and design, so let's say that you have got a response like, I want white color shirt. Okay. Now compare this with how you started. Okay. Kids tell you that they want clothes. Okay. That was the only statement you had. Now you ended up creating this final statement or this final outcome. You reached on to this final outcome. Now when you buy a thing with respect to this final outcome, there's greater likelihood that your kid will like the clothes that you have bought. Why? Because you are buying based on what is actually needed. So the same thing happened with business analyst as well. So when the role of business analyst was created, this was the intention, that you keep probing customers, you keep asking relevant questions so that you can convert their as in customers ambiguous requirements into specific outcomes. When you create into the specific outcomes, it is easier for your development team to create software. Okay. So even though I gave a very simple example, but this is more like what you will be doing on a day-to-day basis in your uh, office as well, or when you start your work as business analyst, that you need to create specific requirements, pass on those specific requirements to your development team, okay, so that they can create a software based on your requirements. And when they create a software, there's greater likelihood of your customer liking that software. Okay. Earlier, talk to customer, directly start building software, you don't know what the customer really wants, some because customer is giving you ambiguous requirements. So you are creating software based on your understanding, based on technical team's understanding. A customer may or may not like software. That's why earlier softwares were cumbersome, cluttered, not user friendly. Nowadays, because you have a business analyst who is thinking like a customer, how do I create a user friendly website? So that's why they come up with specific requirements, so that technical team or development team, they don't have to worry much about what to do and what not to do. So based on this specific requirements, they create software. Now over time, what has happened is we have added one more role in it, that is UI UX. So UI UX is user interface, user design. Okay. Mm. Okay. Now what happens is, user interface, user design are set of people who may not necessarily be business analysts, but a business analyst may interact with these set of people to make your applications more user friendly. Okay. So these are the requirements that you will pass on to your development team to create software. But before your development team starts creating software, you can, as a business analyst, if your organization has a UI UX team, reach out to them to design the user interface. Okay. So for example, before you start creating any website, okay, let's go back to Flipkart's example. Before you start creating website, suppose you created a requirement like, I want an e-commerce application. So before you start building e-commerce application, you can have an open discussion with your UI UX team to discuss how more user friendly these websites can be designed. So UI UX team are not coders as such, they are more of designers. They show you what is the user friendly design so that your development team can code accordingly. Okay. Now this is just a additional note that nowadays we are using, that trend is now, or I would say current trend. Okay. So you see how things have evolved over here. over years, how technology evolved. With the advancement of technology, our focus was to make technology more people friendly. Because we wanted to make technology more people friendly, so that's why we had BA, or a role of a business analyst. And why technical team was not able to create softwares which were, or technologies which were people friendly, is because of their mindset. Their focus is about building software, not building user friendly software. Okay, so we have people with different mindsets or different roles and responsibility. As a developer or as a coder, your focus is more about creating softwares. Okay, so that's why initial days when development team were directly interacting with customers, they would just start building software which would have lesser wait time, but that will lack documentation, knowledge transfer, and it will not be people friendly. But as technology is evolving, we want to make it people friendly so that more and more people can use it, and that's how you will generate revenue. So this business analyst role came into picture. Then we went through what business analyst will do, okay, at a very high level, or let's say at 10,000 feet overview, so that when you look at the top, this is what, from top, this is what a business analyst is doing, converting your ambiguous requirements into specific asks, or converting them into specific outcomes. And nowadays, a business analyst can also interact with the UI UX team to create more and more user friendly designs for these specific requirements or specific outcomes. So now we have covered two things. One, how did the role of BA got created? Okay. And second, how the role of BA has evolved and what is the current trend. Now, do you guys have any questions? Are you guys able to follow along?
No questions.
Okay, good. So then let's move on to the next part. Okay. So we covered how the role of BA was created and how the role of BA has evolved. Now, with respect to IT industry, what is it that you guys are going to do? Okay. So in IT industry, things may be slightly different or changing. Now, whatever terms that we are using, I'm trying to use general purpose terms so far, and once we confirm that we will move on to day 4, that's when I'll introduce you guys to some of the common terms that are used in IT industry, so that from day 5 onwards, our training will then talk about those specific terms. Okay, so that when you guys go on to start your work, you know what those terms mean. Now, in IT industry, as a BA, your main task is to interact with customers. Okay. Again, going back to our example, you see your kid, or when you guys were kids, you were the customers. Okay. So here, kid was the customer, and you were trying to get information out of your kid. So same thing you will do as business analyst, is you will identify who the customer is. Okay. First of all, identify customer and then interact with the customers. Okay. Now, what is the purpose of our interaction with customer? We are not just interacting with customer to chit chat, but that is to get information. Okay. At this moment, I'm calling it information. It may not be a software as such, a software ready information, but we just want to get information. Now, for getting information, you can use different or various techniques, okay? Like interview. You can start asking questions to your customer and get answered. See, this is an example of an interview. We asked questions, we got responses. We asked further questions on top of it, we got responses. Now what we did later, we did some analysis on what response we got, and based on our analysis we finally came to a conclusion that this is what is needed. Okay, so you can use different techniques. Don't worry about these terms. So we can use JAD techniques, brainstorming sessions. So basically, all these are leading to getting information out. Now, once you get information, what is the second part? See over here, we got lot of information when we asked relevant questions. Then what we did, we used all the information, did some analysis, what that information means, and wrote specific requirement. Okay, so analyze the information that you get, and post analysis what you will do is you will convert the analyze or your analysis to specific requirements. Okay, now once you convert it to specific requirements, remember what technical team was lacking, they were not documenting enough. Okay, so as a result, whenever they would retire or switch organizations, there would always be people would be scratching their head on how to get information. So now when they get specific requirements, what they will do, document those requirements. Okay, so that by looking at this document, people will know what is needed, people will know who created the document, people will know who are my point of contacts if I require any help. Okay, now once you document those requirements, then what is the next thing a business analyst will do is a business analyst will try to identify solution. Okay, when I say solution, it doesn't mean a technical solution as such. Technical solution will be identified, but with the help of architects. Technical solution will be identified with the help of architects. Okay, but when I said business analyst will try to identify a solution, this is more of a conceptual solution. Remember, we discussed about one of the skill sets required, and that was how can you conceptualize designs. Okay, that how can I do it? So business analyst will try to identify conceptual solution, that is nothing but they will try to create a flow chart, that how can I achieve this requirement, whatever requirement I have, how do I achieve it, how do I start with it, how do I end it. So that is creating flowchart is your conceptual solution. Now you take this requirement conceptual solution and go and talk to your architects, okay, technical architects or tech leads, and try to identify a technical solution, what technology to use, how to use that technology, what modules to build. Okay, all those type of things, technical details, since you don't have enough expertise on technical areas, so that's why we are requiring technical architects. And you may not, I mean, depending on the organization you work in, some people may not, some organizations may not have architects as such, but they have technical leads. So technical leads or architects are people that have good amount of experience in building softwares. Now these building softwares, because they have good experience on building software, so that's why their knowledge can be utilized over here to build a technical solution. Okay, now once you get the technical solution, then what business analysts, even though they are not creating technical solution, but remember guys, you are the driver. Okay, we discussed about the skill sets, that you guys need to demonstrate leadership skills. So how will you demonstrate? By ensuring that people are by interacting with people and ensuring that they are doing their work. Okay, so you may not create a technical solution as such, but you need to ensure that your architects or your leads are working on it to identify a solution. And once you identify a solution, what you do, you review the solution with them. Okay, review the solution with technical architects or leads. Okay, you want to understand, you don't have to necessarily know how do I write a Python code or a Java code. You don't have to know these details. If the solution says we will create Python programs for user identity verification, you need to understand like what is needed for user identity verification. For example, you may require user ID, password. Okay, so with these two information, you will verify whether it's a registered user or not. So you don't have to necessarily know how the code will execute this, but from a business perspective, how the solution, review the solution with technical architects slash leads to ensure how this solution meets your requirement, how the solution meets slash solves your requirement or your problem. Okay, so that in case if customer asks you that show me the solution, how are you going to solve my problem, then you can demonstrate or review the solution with customer. Remember, this technical solution doesn't talk about the code, but it talks about what technology we use, how are we going to use the technology, what database tables we are going to use to solve the problem. Okay, now, next thing that you do is you share these documents, share the requirement document that we created. Remember, we mentioned here, document those requirements. So let's call them requirement document. So you share the requirement document, and remember, we created a technical solution document as well. And then you share the technical solution document as well with with the development team or tech team. With the development team slash technical team, because this is the team that will now write down the code. So it will review your requirement, it will review the solution, that how the application needs to be designed based on solution, and now they will start writing code for it, actual code which will build your application. Okay, so next thing that happens is once you share the documents, then there will be minor tasks here and there. What you as business analyst will basically do is, once you share the documents all with technical team, and then they start their work, then you move on to first step again in IT industry. Okay, you move on with the next requirement, that okay, for the same customer, do I have multiple requirements? So you move on to the next one, and then similarly next one and next one. Now there could be another chances that you may not necessarily spend a lot of time on it, but small items here and there, like checking on the progress of the work. Okay, because you interact with customer, what if the customer asks you that how much the work has progressed? So checking on the progress of work. You don't necessarily have to scold people or ask them or micromanage them, but you just have to check upon them, how are they progressing, whether they have any roadblocks. If they have any roadblocks that you can solve. Okay, so solve it. If you don't if it is beyond your capacity, then anyways project managers are there to solve any roadblocks or impediments. Then you may also create a document on usage of software. Okay, so whenever we create a new software or a new application, okay, so you can document that as well, so that people will know what you try to implement as part of this requirement over here, how the software looks like, and how the software needs to be used. Okay, remember, we have something called as, in whatever products we buy, like a washing machine, a TV, fridge, whatever you think of it, all, even your cell phones as well, it comes with a user manual or a user guide. Okay, So that doesn't talk about technical details like how did we design our mobile screens or how did we create battery and those type of stuffs. But what it talks about is how can you use your phone. So obviously someone who has designed the phone can only tell you how to use it. So in the similar way, your next focus can also be on documenting on usage of software. So you don't have to say how the software was constructed or built, but how do we use the software? Basically, which option will do what type of thing. So when you click on search, what will happen? When you click on Windows icon, what will happen? So those type of things. So you can create documents. Obviously, it differs from organization to organization, but you may spend some time there as well. Okay. And like I said, here one more thing is there where you will be spending. So you will be having lot of meetings or slash emails with customer and your development team as well. Development team. So far, any questions? Okay, so I would assume that there are no more questions with respect to this topic. Now, this is how, so far, what just to give a quick recap, this is how the role of business analyst was created, what business analyst is expected to do. Okay, we covered that as the second part. And third part is with respect to IT industry, what you guys are supposed to do as a business analyst. Okay. Now, I'll quickly touch upon Agile Waterfall just to give you guys an overview, and we will take this forward in our subsequent classes in detail. Okay. So earlier, when we were building softwares, we used waterfall models. Gradually, we realized that waterfall is not helping us, it is making us slow. So we started shifting to agile methodology. Okay. And in agile also the most popular one used within IT industry is Scrum. Okay. So in our subsequent topics or in our subsequent days, what we will do is we will touch upon the common terms, and once we touch upon the common terms, then we will discuss about the SDLC, that is your software development life cycle. Okay, basically it tells us about how a software is developed. Okay, whether you use waterfall or whether you use agile, whatever be the case, your software development cycle remains same. It's just that this life cycle changes with changes in waterfall with versus agile. Okay, so the way you create software or the way you execute your software development life cycle will vary from waterfall to agile. Okay, now once we see, then we will also see how it is executed in waterfall and how it is executed in agile. Okay, now whatever terms that we see over here, okay, whatever role and responsibility we see that a business analyst will do, okay, then we will try to assign these or assess these roles and responsibilities with respect to software development life cycle. Okay, so we will get to see once we go through software development life cycle what a business analyst will do, or in which phase of the software development life cycle will you identify customers and start interacting with them. Okay, in which phase you will try to get information. Okay, so basically a BA role in SDLC. Okay, so that when someone talks about SDLC, that what is software development life cycle and in which phase you will be doing these activities, you will clearly have an idea. Okay, So our day 5 agenda. Yeah. Our agenda for day 5 will be first to cover on the different type of requirements. Okay. Once we understand the basic terms, then we go through different type of requirements. Then our day 6 will be talking about the SDLC, BA role in SDLC, and waterfall agile with SDLC. Okay. So now what was waterfall model? Just to give you guys a brief overview about it. So earlier, during the earlier days of software development, it was considered that we should develop the entire software in one go. Okay. There was nothing about bits and pieces. You develop everything in one go and then you decide a launch date. That on this particular date, I'm going to launch my software. So waterfall model talked about talked about building a software in one go. Building a software in one go. Okay. So think about your uh, Amazon or Flipkart, for example. So if you want to build it, what you will do is you will build the entire application, and once you have built the entire application, then only you will launch it. So the ask is build the entire application, and once you have built it, then launch the application. Now, obviously, what was the problem with it? Because you are trying to build the entire application, then only launch it. So what happens is it takes lot of time. It takes lot of time. You cannot build the entire application in one day or 1 month. Okay, you may require 6 months time. So what happens is for 6 months, no one has any idea how your software looks like, whether you will be on time or not. And at the end of the 6 month, when your software is ready, then you will launch it. But the problem is one, what it takes lot of time. It takes 6 months to see the software. And number two, what if someone doesn't like the software, isn't it? So let's say you created a software and then you gave a demo of the software on the 6 month, and now people are saying that no, I don't like the font size, I don't like the presentation, it is not user friendly, can we change it? So what happens now? It will require more time to make those changes. Okay. So what if someone doesn't like the software? So then it will lead to more time, even more time to create the software. So that is how Waterfall was doing things earlier, and there was a lot of focus on process. Okay, that is, you will create document for every step. You will take customers approval on those documents, and if customer is asking for a change, like customer says no, I don't like software, change it, you go back to the customer and say, hey, you only told me this is how I need to do, see, I have your approval also, and now you are saying to make changes, so we will not do it. If changes are needed, means we need to repeat the entire process. That is, create a new requirement document, go back to customer, get their approval on new requirement, which means we took 6 months. Now we will take 3 more months to build the software. So now, realizing these issues, people started moving to agile way of doing things. Okay. So how did agile actually solve these problems? Was Agile told that instead of building the entire application in one go, why don't you divide it into pieces? Okay, so instead of building the entire application in one go, why don't you break down the application, break down the application into smaller features or smaller requirements, and then why don't you build this smaller feature? Okay, and you keep building the smaller feature. So today, let's say you have one application and then you created requirement one, then requirement two, and then requirement 3, so on so forth. Let's say till requirement 10. Okay, now you build the smaller feature, means when you are starting you will have requirement 1. The next day, next time, you already have requirement 1, now you will build requirement 2. So next time you already have 1 and 2, so now you what you do is you build 3 on it. Requirement 2, now you build 3 on it, and then you continue to repeat the process. Okay, now instead of your entire application may still be built in 6 months, but what happens is you may do this in 15 days. Okay, in 15 days your requirement 1 is ready. In next 15 days your requirement 2 is ready. Okay, in next 15 days your requirement 3 is ready. Okay, so now when you keep building these in 15 days, what happens is, number one, see this, your entire application may still take 6 months, but whatever you are building in 15 days, you are giving a demo to the customer after 15 days. Okay, so what happens now is you will get a feedback after 15 days. So if something is wrong, you can fix it then and there itself. You don't have to wait for 6 months now. 15 days, smaller feature, and when you are building a smaller feature, it is easy to make change. When you want to make change in entire application, it is difficult to make change. So when you give demo to the customer after 15 days and customer gives you any feedback, then it is easy to implement that feedback. Okay. Now, one more thing that Agile did was that let's focus more on people than process. That if customer comes and tells you, I want some change, you don't tell the customer that this is what you agreed upon. See, I have email from you saying that yes, this is what I want. No, you focus more on people. That is, if customer is asking for a change, you identify or assess how much time it will take to implement that change or feedback. If it is going to take a lot of time, then you accordingly communicate to customer that hey, it is going to take some time, I have other requirements as well. Like you are giving me feedback on requirement 1, I have requirement 2 as well that needs to be worked on. So what should I do? Should I work on this feedback, and once this feedback is implemented then work on requirement 2, or should I continue with requirement 2? So you give more focus to people in trying to get the work done, and not on I have email from you, this is what it is, we will do this. Okay. So one, you are breaking down your requirement into smaller features, and these smaller features you are implementing, let's say in every 15 days. And after 15 days, you are giving a demo to your customer to know how it is, how the work is going along. Now to give you guys a real-time example, a real-time as in sorry, real life example to understand this in a little better way. Suppose you are you saw an apartment, okay? You want to buy a flat in an apartment, okay? Now what happens is, suppose the builder doesn't shows you the floor plan, doesn't show you how the flat will be constructed, how many rooms will be there, how things will look like. So what happens is everything will be a surprise for you. Okay. Now once the building is ready and now the builder shows you that apartment, that see sir, this is the apartment. This is how each floor looks like. This is how each flat looks like. Every flat has one room only, one hall only, and there is no window on it. So if you have any feedback, what will happen? The builder will have to demolish entire apartment. Okay, if you have any feedback, let's say you want, there are no windows in the apartment, now you want the builder to include windows. So a builder cannot just simply go and start adding windows on it. So the amount or the impact is higher. Why? Because you constructed the building After constructing the building, then you are giving demo to your customers, and now customers are giving you feedback. So now you have to make changes in the entire building. Now, as opposed to that, think of the how new age builders are working. They will build a sample flat first, or a sample house. They will show you the sample house, that sir, this is how the flat will look like. They will also give you 3D images of how the floor plan looks like, how many floors I am going to have, how each floor will look like, how many flats will be there in each floor, how the lift will be placed, and they will have a sample flat for you to see. Now there is less chances of getting a surprise. So what you did was, you thought of building an apartment, or yes, an apartment, and then you break it down into smaller pieces. Like, let me create a sample flat, let me create a design, let me create floor plan, and then you started giving demonstration of it. So let's say now your ground floor is ready. So you give a demonstration to your customers that, see, ground floor is ready and this is how ground floor looks like. If you have any feedback, let me know, because based on that feedback only I will start with first floor, second floor, and so on. But if you build a 15 floor building and then ask for feedback, then that will take some time. So that was the difference between waterfall and agile. That instead of waterfall, you can consider that a builder has constructed entire apartment and now is asking for feedback. So if you get any feedback, it will be difficult to implement. You become more rigid because now you have to change entire apartment, so it is difficult to implement. Versus agile, where you have broken down apartment into smaller pieces, you created design, you created a sample flat, gave a demo to your customers, ask for feedback. If they have any feedback, you implement the feedback there itself, so that it takes less time, less effort to implement those feedbacks. Okay, so I hope you guys will remember this example of building an apartment, and then use that apartment example for waterfall and agile, how things are done. That is just to give you guys an overview how things will move in waterfall versus agile. Any questions? I hope you guys are able to follow along. In case if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, I would assume that since you guys are being silent, so I would assume that there aren't any questions and you guys are able to follow along. So, as I said earlier as well, the final point before we end the session, that is, if you haven't dropped a WhatsApp message on this number, please drop a message on this WhatsApp message on this number about your confirmation or joining these demo classes. Okay, so these will help us communicate right set of information with the people, like what the class timings are, recording, sharing those, and other type of things. So I'll paste it on the chat.
So Rahul, so like, do we
Yeah.
learn anything like I mean, if we attend any software related courses, so we need to learn that particular software. But in this case, do we learn anything in particular?
So you will, like I said in the first class, you will learn about Microsoft applications, okay, like Microsoft Word, presentations, and Microsoft Visio. How do you create flowcharts using Visio?
Flowcharts.
Okay.
Okay.
And then at the end, we will touch upon SQL. It will
Okay.
not be in-depth SQL class, but we'll
Hmm.
touch upon so that you guys can do regular data checks, data verification. How do we do that? So those are the tools that you will be using on your day-to-day basis. Your Microsoft Word, creating flowcharts. Okay.
Okay. So
So
apart
that
from
is
that, I mean, and there's documentation of creating functional requirement, technical requirement documents.
exactly, Anand. So your main skill set is on creating requirement as a business analyst, creating requirements. But how do you create requirement and how do you document? You use certain tools along with it. Now, when we
Yeah,
start with
correct.
Agile, we will
Hmm.
also go through Jira. Jira, one of the popular Agile lifecycle management tool. We will go through Jira as well, so that you guys have a good understanding of how the tool looks like, how do we create stories on it.
Okay. So okay. But apart from that, it's all about analysis that we do on the business information, rather learning any
Yes.
software or any programming.
No, no, I mean, this is not a coding course. As a business
Correct.
analyst, you will not be
Yeah.
involved in coding. I mean, you can at any point of time if you wish to do coding, no one will stop you as a business analyst from doing coding. But
Okay.
that is not the primary responsibility.
Right. Right. So any analytical tools that we need to have, good to have for a BA?
It is not really needed as a BA, but unless you are moving or switching your careers to business data analyst or business analytics and not business analyst, then you may require some ETL tools knowledge, like Informatica and those type of ETL tools and data visualization tool like Power BI,
Okay.
Tableau, those type of things. Only
So
if you are planning to have a
hmm,
data analyst career.
data analytic career.
Yes, yes.
So for the business analyst is most of a, the way you speak, the way you take the notes, the way you attend the meetings, the way you gather information. It's more about that only.
Exactly, exactly. And how do you create the requirements out of
How,
all of it? Because
how to
your
convert that
requirements are,
requirement into a technical. Yeah.
yes, because
Mm,
your requirements are the starting point. If you don't create requirements, your technical team will not get started.
correct. So how the interviews will be for a business analyst? So, I mean, what kind of questions would we expect in the interviews?
So
Because
mainly,
every organization will be on a different domain. So one will be on insurance, one will be on banking, one will be on a finance, media. There are different domains. So what exactly the interview would be for a business analyst? How it would?
so interview basically focuses on three parts. Okay, so some organizations may choose to focus on your domain knowledge, but that is not the primary concern. So first part is how much your experience looks like. Okay, what is it that you are trying to convey? Your communication, your
Hmm.
you being proactive. Okay, how are you able to clearly communicate your ideas with the interviewer? Is the interviewer able to understand what you are saying? Second is your usage of tools, knowledge and usage of tools. How much tools do you know? How do you document requirements? Okay. And third is situational questions. That is, when you
Okay.
interact with customers, you would face certain difficulties, like customer is not giving you information, team is
Hmm.
fighting among themselves that I have coded
Correct.
correctly, your requirement is wrong, or testing
Right.
team is saying code is not correct, this is a defect. So situational questions will be how do you handle these conflicts? What do you do to
Behavioral
resolve?
question. In that situation, how you behave.
Yes, yes. So these three parts. One, your business analysis knowledge, that how do you write documents, how do you create softwares, how do you gather requirements, those type of things. That one of the topics that we will go through is elicitation technique. That how do you get more
Correct.
information
Hmm.
out of customers? And second is your knowledge of tools. Have you used Jira? How do you create stories in Jira? In what format you write your stories? Why do you write in this format? How do you create flowcharts? Your knowledge and usage of tools. And third,
Hmm.
behavioral questions.
Right. So, in this training, can we expect those type of interview related information, like at least one or two domain related questions, like how the interview would be and how we can answer them?
Absolutely. So our first focus is on preparing you for business analyst role. And
Yeah.
second, we are going through some of these tools as well that will be majorly asked. Now, as and when we go through these trainings, I will also share my example with you, like what do you do whenever there's a conflict? Because through behavioral question, an interviewer tries to understand whether have you actually performed the role of a business analyst or not. If you have, you
Yeah.
will be able to answer. If you have not performed, they will know that you will stumble, you may not give relevant answers, or you will try to avoid the question. So,
Correct.
through
So
this
that kind of
exercise,
right. Yeah. So we'll be getting that kind of information as well, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, Rahul, at this point.
Sure. So don't forget to send this WhatsApp message, guys. Okay, and we'll meet tomorrow.